where do you start in, you opened your comments by talking about what is called the digital communication world or agency. Where do you start? Facebook, Twitter, web, podcast, vodcast? Is it
it's everything.
Where do you start? Like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm exhausted by I don't know where to start. I need to have a rest.
Yeah. Well, you're right, Jim. It is overwhelming, and I think most business people are.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Sure.
For Dr. Jeff Lee, was that a good question?
Oh, Lord, here we go.
Would you be able to tell our listeners that was a good question?
It was a fantastic question.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thank you.
Did I write that one, or did
Bravo, Jim, for a great question there. Bravo.
And can I just say to our listeners, on behalf of our listeners, thank you for your sincerity, Connor.
The sound effect not give that away?
Where do you start?
Okay, look, it is pretty an amazing space that we live in the sense of the digital media space or marketing area. Just to put it in perspective, Google, it's something you can't avoid to do. A lot of people, I think, just bury their head in the sand because it's too much.
Yeah.
And it is changing. I mean, there's new things which we probably won't have time to talk about, that Facebook have just released Branch Out, which is their professional network in competition with LinkedIn.
Is that a name or is it something?
No, it's called Branch Out.
Did you know about that, Connor?
I did indeed.
Yes.
Oh, thanks for sharing.
Sorry,
hot off the press.
Okay, would you come back and talk about that next week?
We can talk about a whole show about Branch Out.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Next week. Can you come back next week?
I should be able to.
Okay, if you can, we might do something, because, again, we need to be at the forefront of that in business, in money and sense. You need to be in.
Yes. Well, one of the growth areas, just to give you an idea, I've got stats in front of me which is just mind-boggling about the millions of people, but we all know those sort of things. I won't go through those. But one that is interesting is Google Plus, which is the new social kind of network part of Google, again in competition with other platforms like Facebook. That started off in November last year, and has already grown to 90 million users around the world. By the end of this year, so 12 months into it, they expect to have 400 million users, which is half what Facebook
has indeed, yes.
And that's called Google
Plus.
And that's 12 months we're talking. That's how fast that's growing.
The uptake rate of it is absolutely amazing.
Well, you need to tell our listeners, if I can say that to you, Tony, about Google Plus, rather than going to it now, because I'm blown about Brian Chow. I wasn't quite sure who he played for, because being a bit of an old football head, I thought he might have played for the Tigers or something, so that's wrong. We've got that. And Google Plus. So there's another 2 points.
Yeah, well, we could talk about that next time, because it is a phenomenon that's just really taken off. But just to answer your question then briefly about where to start, the idea is you have to start, number one. It's not a case of sitting back and thinking, where do I start? You've just got to get in and amongst it. And you've got to have the basics. So you've got to have a LinkedIn. If you do a Google search for Dr. Jim Taggart, your LinkedIn profile should come up number one. I did a Google search for you before I came down. It didn't come up number one.
Yes.
But you came up number one and number two under the Taggart group.
Yep.
Number three was the actor in the Taggart from England.
Yes.
You know, the Taggart cop.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's Jim Taggart. But then your LinkedIn comes up. But generally for most people, if you go in and set up a LinkedIn profile for your business and for yourself, you will rank number one. So when people search for you on Google, you're up there straight away.
So is that good or bad for me? If I can ask, I'll ask an honest question. I know you give me an honest answer. So my profile, and I'm reasonably profiled around here, and I don't mean that, in a very condescending way. But are you saying that I'm not really up there?
I'm saying you ideally should have probably your LinkedIn profile number one, not your. It means that you're on the positive side. It means that your website, your business website, is performing well on Google.
Is that right?
You're number one and two under your name.
Okay.
But
so the organisation is?
Yes, and mentions of you obviously within the organisation on your profile page.
If you search Jim Taggart, About Us is the first hit. About Us for the Taggart group.
Are you looking that up now?
Yes, and Jim Taggart, OAM, is the second one up, so.
And then our man from the UK.
Then Jim Taggart from the show Taggart is after that one.
And then I think it's LinkedIn, isn't it?
Then it's Jim Taggart from the Eureka TV show. Then it's Atlas Shrugged Characters. Then it's Investor Daily. Then it's LinkedIn.
So what that's saying is, for our listeners, and to our listeners, I think what it's saying is that I need to really reflect upon how I come up in Google.
Yes, yeah, and you can do that through LinkedIn. You're probably not using. We'd look at your LinkedIn profile and see how you're using it. You're probably not using it to the proper extent, so therefore the search rankings are lower.
Okay, thanks for that. And that's something else that we can talk to with about. So let's just summarise that part. As I said, I would really love you to come and tell our listeners about it, because you can't play ostriches. You can't put your head in the sand. Or what they call cave person. You can't do that.
No.
You may have got away with that 5 years ago or so. You live or perish by the new digital communications. So there's a whole piece, and I'd really like to talk about that. Let's finally then, at a bit after 6:45, just in brief comment, then what's coming in the world of business marketing, even if we just mention it.
Sure.
And we'll go to a song, and then we'll finish with our last interview for the night. I could stay here and talk a whole.
Yes, we've only got 10 minutes to go, Jim. So it's now is the time for to wrap up.
Okay, but what is coming just in general, so people can prepare themselves for the coming weeks of what you might want to talk about, Tony?
All right. So just very briefly, and again, these are things we can talk. I'm happy to talk about down the future, because really we could just probably pick two and talk about them each time. QR codes, quick response codes. At the back of my business card there is a quick response code. What that does is you hand out a business card, it then links to a website, it links to a video where using
true.
So it comes to life. It takes you.
Sorry, listeners, and Connor's got half a smile on his face because this is pretty basic.
My phone will scan this now, and I can do it right now if you wish. Live on
anyone looking for a panel job out there? No, but Connor, I don't know anything about this, so I'm giving Tony's card, called the Brand Manager, or called Brand Manager, as a creative director. I'm giving that card. Tony's given that to me. He wants to continue our relationship. I've given that to Connor, and he's now scanning that on his phone, and I suspect that will go to...
There you go. It's link details to www.thebrandmanager.com.au/Tony. So just come up there on my phone, and if I'm connected to the internet at the time, I can go straight to the website. It does it automatically.
There's going to be a video of me saying, thank you for clicking on there. My name's Tony Eades. I'm Creative Director of Brand Manager, and talk to you. So it actually reminds you who I was when you met me and what my specialties are and why you should get in contact with me.
Yeah, did you say Jim Taggart? Jim Taggart on there? Oh,
yes.
That is amazing. Listeners, and I'm sorry if I'm...
Jim, you could get that on your phone too. There's an app for that, as they say.
I'm absolutely blown away by my naivety in this world, because that is just cool. That's really cool. For you, you're just saying, Jim, that's just part of doing business. I'm saying, what a great tool. And I think of the Academy of Sport, for example, having that on the directors' cards about our young people that we develop.
That just shows the ingenuity there in marketing. I mean, they started off as UPS scanning codes because barcodes weren't long enough, and that's how they became those. And now look at them; they're the most handy things for storing everyone's details on them. And
All
stuff
right,
like that.
I'll give you your job back. You're doing really well.
Yes.
That's amazing, Connor. I'm sorry I don't know about that.
No, they've rose to popularity this last 2 years or so. They've just become huge, absolutely enormous in Europe.
Ads. I've noticed TV ads. You working on
TV ads, lots of billboards as well. QR codes,
response codes.
Quick response.
If you look at lots of billboards across the city, Jim.
Yes.
And in fact, I just saw in the news recently, Woolworths now, it's somewhere, at Wynyard Station here, when you're walking along to the station, they have QR codes of their food items for Woolworths, and you can buy them there and then on the wall as you're walking home. You can have them delivered to your house. So the way they're using these QR codes is just truly amazing these days.
The digital world we live in.
Yes, it's absolutely amazing.
Let's finish off, just to mention one at 10:02.
Sure.
10 to 7, and we've got another interview to do to finish off. This has been one of the best interviews I've conducted. No, that you've that I've had in the studio over the last 2 years. Can I just say that?
Thanks, Jim.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So we're going to look at QR codes.
Yep.
We're going to have a look at Brian Chi.
Yep.
And we're going to look at Google Plus. And one final one.
Branch Out, the brand new thing from Facebook for the professional networks.
Branch Out. Okay, now do you know anything about that, Connor?
Not too much, no.
Right.
I'm not much a businessman myself. So you've got your trump card there, Jim.
Yeah,
you have your trump card.
I'll inform you about that.
Oh.
Tony, thank you on behalf of Connor, myself, and Dr. Jeff
Yes,
Lee.
thank you indeed.
For bringing to our attention tools that are a must for business. tools that are a must in terms of money and cents, because that's going to bring a new world, it's going to bring it's going to bring the existing world into your world. It's out there. We've got to grab it.
That's right. Yeah.
Tony, thank you so much for being part of the show tonight. Really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to you coming back.